perfect.
Like,
oh man,
it's like Tom Cruise and Will Ferrell.
Yeah, right. Had a baby, and that's you,
That's
Eric
me.
Tansey. Welcome to Security Halt Podcast. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you? I know it doesn't seem like I'm doing good, but I'm doing great. Sorry.
Yeah, no, this is perfect. For you listening, you just missed 2 adult men confused by technology.
It was very embarrassing. We thought there was a ghost in my studio, and it happens that it was in the computer the whole time. So
The files are in the computer.
it's okay, man. But trust us, we know what we're talking about.
We're professionals.
It's
Dude, you're an author now. You're a veteran, a service, or you were a service member, then a law enforcement officer. Done a lot of big things, man. To serve after serving, that takes some guts, man. And I want to dive into your story. How does one go from the military into law enforcement and then write a book about it?
The book was not a part of the plan, by the way. That was like a sheer accident. I was probably the guy that would say I would never write a book. You know how they say never say never?
Yeah.
True, right? Never. I grew up like I would never be a cop. That's the dumbest thing ever. Because I was a skater and a surfer and you know, I don't know, kind of like anti-cop, I guess.
Yeah.
So I became a cop, and then I also wrote a book. So it's kind of weird how life works out for you. But you said how do I go from being a veteran to being a cop? Well, I was a terrible salesman and realized that so I got out of the military to sell wine, believe it or not.
Holy shit.
Okay, so
yeah, we got to dive into that.
We're having fun. So when I was going through, like when I deployed, when I got home from deployment from Afghanistan in early 2005, 2006, I tried out for the Green Beret program, went to selection, got selected, and then started my journey in the Q course. And at the time, I happened to be like best friends with a combat controller who was going through the combat control pipeline. And you've been to Bragg, obviously, you've been through the Q course, and you know that like it's really hard to like date girls or find any girls in the Bragg area.
Yep.
And I don't know, at that time, like all the dudes were filling up the bars, and we were like, let's go to a wine tasting.
Nice.
And so we started going to wine tastings, and I actually really got into wine. Again, it was I think 2006. So when I got out of the military in 2010, I was like, I'm going to get out and become a wine salesman. I want to hunt the sommelier program and the certified specialist of wine program, which like nobody really knew about back then. The Netflix documentary Somm hadn't come out yet or anything like that. So this was like, you know, still people were like, what is that? You know? And, so I got out of the military and started working as a wine salesman and a wine educator, and was terrible at it.
Really?
Oh, it was awful. And so I did the only other thing a student can do without college education, that's become a cop. So like, they're like, wait,
it's a likely move. It's a most likely pivot. Yeah.
So I didn't make it through the Q course. I got in some trouble in the Q course at the end.
Investigate that. What happened?
Well, you're more than welcome to. It's actually a pretty famous story. You might even know the story, but it was kind of legendary at the time. But there was a group of higher enlisted dudes that were going through the Q course. I was a lower enlisted guy going through the Q course, and they bought a house and were subletting all the rooms for max BAH. So I was paying the max BAH, but when you get in front of CID and you say I was focused on my area of responsibility, and they're like, that doesn't work here. Like, you have to tell us, who are you writing checks to? Like, we have the copies of the checks. You just have to be honest with us. And then I was like, oh, I was focused on my area of responsibility. You know, and they're like, you understand that's unethical, right? But I like just graduated SEER too.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when I was 23, I don't know, man. Like, was it dumb? Yes. Should I have just said who? I mean, they already knew. It wasn't like I was ratting on it. But in my brain, everything is a test, you know, everything, you know, and it even came down to the sergeant major at the time of being like, dude, what are you doing? Like, just go in there and cooperate, or you're going to be caught up in this too. And I was like, man, I'm not saying
saying shit.
Yeah.
Loyal to the street.
Yeah, man. Like, little did I know. So I got sent back because I was 20th group in the Guard. So I got sent back to a unit, and without my Green Beret, on a probationary status to return. And so I had to do all these like probation stuff. And I, you know, went to TDY and all these things. And And like, so people were like, who are you? What are you doing? You're on a team, but you're not on a team. You're, so like the last 4 years of my military service were very, it was like 2 years at Bragg and then 2 years on a team without having a Green Beret.
Yeah.
And then when they finally got me back up to Bragg, they said I had to start from selection. And I was like,
what?
Just not going to do it. It's like,
let me tell you, dog. not going to do it. Not for me.
No, because I already did small unit tactics twice.
Oh,
all the way through twice.
Fuck.
So I finished small unit tactics, but I failed leadership. So like I peered really high, but they were like, every time we put you in charge of something, you just pawned it off on somebody else. But I was 23 years old and like, I don't know, this was like in the middle of GWAT. And so like everybody there were like snipers and Bronze Stars and Silver. There were 2 Apache pilots that landed their Apache in Fallujah, and the gunner jumped out and loaded up a wounded Marine, and both these dudes lost their commissions as officers and lost their pilot's licenses, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
Because they did this and they were told not to. So the Blackhawks couldn't land because of this firefight. And so these Apache pilots was like, fuck it, we'll land. They land, the back dude kicks out, grabs the Marine's gun, loads the wounded Marine into the Apache, and they take off. So both those dudes end up getting like Silver Stars and like both those guys were in my class.
Fuck.
Like how do you compete with stuff like one of the Lost Boys? You remember that documentary, The Lost Boys, with those like African kids that were like a whole lot. One of the Lost Boys from that Diane Sawyer special. Yeah. He was in the class too. So it was like you had all these like epic people, and then you just have me, this 23-year-old one deployment nerd. E4 at the time. And so every time they would put me in a leadership position, I would be like, you know what? I'm really good at carrying heavy shit, but I'm not good at being a leader. So let's just like, give me the radio batteries and you guys, you guys take this portion of the op order and I'll take the carry heavy shit part,
Dude, it's really hard to find your own and find your own voice when you got dudes like that. It's really fucking hard. And you're 23, man. You're a fucking kid.
Yeah, there was this like first sergeant that was like going through the course at the time, and I was the youngest guy on the little training ODA, and this guy just like hated me. I'm sure he had good reasons to hate me, but he just hated me, and that made my life very hard because there's no rank, but he is a first sergeant, and it was like I don't know if he was like trying to teach me stuff or what he was trying to do, but it just like so that whole small unit tactics phase was very rough for me, but I peered very high. But again, they told me like at the end, they were like, hey, if we were to tell you at the murder board, they're like, if we were to tell you to show up on Monday, would you start over from the beginning? And I was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like, they're testing me. They're like, great, we'll see you next week. And I was like, wait. And so, but they sent me, how they said, I don't know, like for those of you who haven't been, when you finish the course, they like send you to 2 different, well, back then they did, it was tent city, but you went to 2 different tents. So the people who didn't make it through the murder board would have to go to one tent. And then the people who made it would go to the other tent. And so after they told me I didn't make it, I was like going towards the other tent. They're like, no, you're coming back. Go to the tent, with all those guys that made it. So I was like, oh, okay. So this still could be a game. And I get in there, everybody's like, yeah, Tansey. When you walk in, they're like, and I was like, no, hold on. Like, I don't think I did make it. And they're like, no, they're fucking with you, man. They're fucking. So I've got like these high spirits. And so that, we left the field that Friday night. We get into Fort Bragg and then we all go out. I don't remember. We went to like Logan Steakhouse. You know how we all, how everybody does. And of course, like everybody's doing shots and everything. But I'm like, still like, I don't think I made it, so I'm trying not to celebrate. And then of course, Saturday morning, the email with the packing list shows up in my inbox. And I'm like, no, it's true. I spend the rest of the weekend like repacking, and then I get there. And then they're like, class leader is Corporal Tansey. And I was like, wait, what did you just fucking say? Because your class leader is like a captain or above. Yeah. Or a captain. And so I ended up being the class leader and I appeared like almost dead last. And they made me the class leader of the whole class. But so then at the last murder board, I come in and I sucked, dude. Like, aside from like, I never got us lost. So that was like my only redeeming quality. Like land nav was always solid, but like everything else, like, dude, I would have us infilling by doing like 18 click movements because I didn't request a bird or a truck. And they're like, well, all you had to do was request a platform and you didn't request any. So now you're just going to infill by walking. Why didn't anybody request an infill platform? And everybody's like, yeah, you idiot. And I was like, I didn't know, so like it was awful. And so I got to the murder board the second time and they're like, man, first time you were here, it looks like you weren't a leader at all, but you were really friendly and you had a lot of friends. You peered high. And then this time you were a leader the entire time and you peered really low. Like, what's your deal? And I was like, man, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I like broke composure. I was like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, I tried my best. This was a great learning opportunity. I mean, I'm a better man for it, but obviously I'm not cut out to be a Green Beret, but thank you. And they're like, well, hold on. If we were to send you on to the next phase of training, you think you could find yourself to peer somewhere in the middle? And I was like, 100%. And they're like, okay, congratulations, you've made it through this iteration. And I was like, I like tears like coming down my eyes. And then one guy, I just remember him saying, I think you're the first person to be that excited to go to SEER like that we've ever had in here. I was like, oh, I'm so ready to go. Yeah. So then I graduated SEER and then I was sitting in language school and had no idea this investigation was coming down the pipeline and got called out. And they were like, are you living at this address and everything? And I was like, yeah. And then, CID got involved and I knew it was kind of crazy and I didn't really know what the extent was, but yeah, I think those guys got, UCMJ action, the guys that owned the place. And it was a really big deal, man. A lot of guys lost, I think it went before Congress at one point, like, cause one guy was like an E7 or something, but it ended up being a real big deal. And it was kind of a blight on my, my resume at the time. And even when I became a cop, I put that on my resume that I got in trouble. I received like a training general letter of reprimand.
Oh shit.
A training GOMAR. Well, that doesn't
GOMAR
exist.
with training wheels.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. So it's like they didn't keep it in a file. So the police it took me a year to get hired as a cop because they couldn't, I was honest.
Couldn't find it.
And they couldn't find the paperwork. They're like, well, we know you said you got in trouble, but we don't see anywhere that you got in trouble. I'm like, yeah, I made it up.
Guys. I made it up.
I fucking made it up. Like, I made up this whole thing about defrauding the government because I want to be a cop that bad. Like, so, but yeah, they ended up finding it through a sergeant major who I'm still friends with now. Guy works for Black Rifle Coffee. I won't say his name just in case he doesn't want me to, but he's still currently a Green Beret and he's a sergeant major. And I think he somehow through the annals of the pipeline or something, someone was able to verify that this guy was involved in an investigation and he wasn't in trouble for anything. So so I became a cop and then that was the shit show in itself, man. And it was just worthy of writing a book. And it was like my career was hilarious. It was like the funniest, it was like, and you probably know yourself, but there's just, you can't make it up. And people would say Eric either has a black cloud that hangs over his head or he has a golden horseshoe. Nobody can figure it out yet. It's either I have the worst luck of any man on the planet or I have a golden horseshoe. It's like we don't know because everything I do is awesome and epic, but it ends epically terrible too. So
sometimes life can give us quite the epic ride only to watch it fall apart mid-flight.
So like leading up to the book, so I wrote the book. It's called Piglat and a Seriously Funny True Story, and it's a comedy. It's like the first cop comedy like ever written. And so I signed this huge book deal with Simon Schuster, and again had no idea this was ever going to be a book. That wasn't the goal, but how it became a book was I was really struggling, dude. Like I joined the department, and I'm like going to the academy, and I had just come out of the Q course lifestyle. I'd only been out of the military for like a year. So, I knew that like quiet professional, like I knew how to play the game, dude. Like I knew how to be the gray guy. I'm a team player. I'm a huge, like that is me. If there's heavy stuff to carry, I'm your man. If there's the bathrooms that need to be cleaned, I'm the guy that will be the last person to sit down and the first person to stand up. I'm the guy that fills up everybody's water bottles. I'm the guy that, like helps you moleskin your feet, but I'm not the guy that comes up with the plan. I'm not the guy that like builds your apparatus. I'm just the guy that carries your fucking apparatus. Does that make sense?
100%. But it takes a real human being that understands who the fuck they are to admit that. You know it. You've seen the guys that get up on here. There's people out there that make themselves out to be like Captain America, and not everybody's Captain America. I'm not fucking Captain America. Like I'm not going to give you the quarterback speech that you need. Like I'll take care of you. But like it takes a person of different caliber to be able to admit what they're good at, what they're great at, and what they're fucking dog shit at. And everybody, there's so many people out there in this space is like, I'm Iron Man. No, at best, you're Ant-Man. Like, just admit it. Just fucking admit it. I'm
Like, why can't we just be great at being mediocre? Like, why is that not okay? Like, I'm a mediocre guy, but I could be awesome at being mediocre. You know, people are like, don't say that, bro. You're manifesting bad. You know, like that's not you. I was like, no, like I know that's where I'm at, and like let me succeed.
You found greatness though. You found your own like
niche.
You found your own talents, your own skill sets that you can amplify. Like going back earlier when you were that young corporal, hey, we're going to make you the class leader. That's an old way mentality of thinking. I'm going to force you to be a leader. I'm going to force that leader out of you. Some people don't have that. Some people, especially that age, it's not in you. If you've never actually like been grown or molded and developed over and over, some people need like a deployment or two to get those reps in. It doesn't always happen like through an SUT class.
Yeah, and I mean, like for me, I joined the military at like 19 too, and like I was a surfer with long hair, working on a deep sea fishing boat. Like I was the last person that should join the military, and had no ambition in joining the military. But I was going to get on the boat because I worked on a deep sea fishing boat right out of high school, and I was living in an apartment with two of my best friends, and like we surfed and fished all day, every day. We all worked, like one worked on the dock and the other two of us worked on the boat. And so like we went to work together and we came off the boat. I was like, it was like this awesome life.
Yeah.
At 18, living like 3 blocks from the ocean, you know, in St. Augustine, Florida. And it was great, man. Everything was going awesome. And I'm on my way to get on the boat and they're playing this thing on the radio of Fallujah. And it's like,
yeah,
like, oh, troops are now entering Fallujah. And it's like, they're playing all, and I just like, I don't know, man, like, I had like long hair and I was just like, dude, what? I'm a piece of shit. Like, I'm like, I'm going to go.
Why am I not there?
With dolphins, man. Like there's dudes my age, like fighting in Fallujah right now. This is like 2002, you know? And so I got off of the boat that evening covered in fish guts and went into a recruiting station. I didn't know what the National Guard was. I didn't know what anything was. It just said like now hiring $25 an hour, you know, or something. So I walk in, I'm covered in fish guts and like, you know, sticking there all like, what are you doing here? You know, cause it's, you know, GWAT, like, so all the security was, you know, like TSA level security at these armories at the beginning of GWAT. And I was just like, I'm just here to see a recruiter. You know, I can't imagine what they must have been thinking. Like this long haired dude with fish guts all over his t-shirt and board shorts and flip flops on, you know, and, you know, I just said, I want to go to war. I don't want to be in the military. I just want to go do my part and then like get out. I want to do like a 2-year enlistment. And they're like, well, there's this Camp Scout thing that they're deploying in like 18 months. So if you can go to basic training and get all that stuff done, you know, you should be able to deploy pretty quickly. And so that's what I did. And the minute I deployed, this Green Beret unit rolled through and they were like, hey, we need a gunner who's got the highest shooting score in your little group that I was with, the squad that I was on. And they were like, oh, well, Tansey shot expert, you know, on multiple platforms and got an RCOM for it. So take him. And so now I'm surrounded by Green Berets that I don't know. I didn't even know what a Green Beret was, dude. I swear to you, I didn't even know what they were. Just like we just called them the bearded dudes, you know, because like GWAT was the first time we saw that stuff. So 2005, like that, like that didn't really exist, you know, like you read like the Red Team, Red SEAL books, like, you know, whatever those books were back in the day. But so yeah, now I'm like, and none of those guys ever talked to me, but I was with them for months, like 4 or 5 months. And they were really nice to me. It was really cool, but I wasn't getting like mentored by them or anything. Like they were in some serious shit. They were doing like serious mission planning. I mean, like, you know, at one point, like I remember one point, like when I first got with them, they were like, how many hand grenades do you have? And I'm like, they wouldn't give me hand grenades. They're like, dude, you have to have at least 4 hand grenades. And I was like, okay. And I went to this tent, big guy looked just like you could have been the guy, honestly. And the guy was like, what you need? And I was like, oh, they said I need to come in here and get some hand grenades. And he's like, yeah, how many do you need? And he's like, he told me to come in here and get 4. And he's like, yeah, sure. And he like hands me like 4. Those things are heavy too, you know? So like hands me 4 grenades. I don't have any pouches. He's like, you got any pouches? I was like, no. And he's like, I've got 2. So here's 2 pouches. And I was like, what do I do with the other 2? He's like, put them in your cargo pockets. I don't know. So I'm like walking around with these swinging fucking hand grenades in my pocket. You know, like that's how green I was, bro.
Yeah.
But you know, at the end of that 4 or 5 months, I knew that's what I wanted to be. I was like, yo, this is a different breed of humans. Like, if I'm going to stay in, this is what I need to do. And I would tell people, like, I think I'm going to go, like when I got back, I was like, I'm going to be a Green Beret. And they're all laughing. They're like, bro, no, you're not. Like, no, you're not. You're an idiot. And I trained for like 6 months when I got home and I went to selection and, you know, I got selected, which was crazy. But, So when I went to the police academy, though, I was pretty, I was 28 by the time I went to the academy, and at that point I was mature, right? And I'd been through a lot of the stuff through the Q course and TDYs, and worked some, like, I worked with a SEAL team for a while out in California with the Green Beret unit, and I was doing some counter surveillance training with a SEAL team that was gearing up for an op, and so we were helping them train for a month or so, and so I got a lot of great experience under my belt, like maturity level stuff, and just being a mature human being, really. And so when I came to the academy, I was like, I'm going to be like the gray man. I'm just going to be the guy that helps everybody. And man, I get in there and there's this like ex-Navy SEAL in there that like did his homework. And he's like, where's my Green Beret at? And I don't raise my hand because I wasn't a Green Beret.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there's a Green Beret in that class. That's cool. And he's like, I'm going to ask one more time, where's my Green Beret at? It's a big old black dude. And then like nobody raises their hand. I'm like, you're right. I'm staying at attention, so I can't really see all of it. But I'm like, man, who is this guy? And then he was like, oh shit. And he was like, you want to try to hide under the radar? Wait till I find you, motherfucker. I know you in here. And he was like, where are you? I'm gonna give you one more chance. Blah, blah, blah. And he was like, you've had some problems with integrity in the past, and your past. And I'm like, man, is this guy talking about me? Possibly, like. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I'm like, are you talking about me? And he was like, are you Tansey? And I was like, yeah. Of course he goes in this whole tirade, like, why wouldn't you raise your hand? And I was like, I wasn't a great. And then, so he had it out for me from day one.
Yeah.
And so he called me SF the whole time, which was not true. And I kept telling everybody, I'm like freaking out. I'm like, guys, I'm not a Green Beret.
Yeah.
Like, not a Green Beret. And, but he would like tell all the other instructors. And so then at all the shooting courses, they'd be like, where's that little Green Beret? Where's that little special forces guy at? And I'm like, God damn it.
Such a pain in the ass, man. Yeah.
So I make it, and then I get sent to the hardest beat in the hardest district of being a police officer in Raleigh. And I'm not from Raleigh. And I just get thrown right into the meat grinder, brother. Like, I'm telling you, like, I show up day one, and again, like, I'm back to ground zero. I make it through the academy. It's very hard. It was tough. All the academics and stuff. I wasn't used to all that stuff. I make it through. And I get to the unit, and I get to the squad, and I show up like an hour early. I'm sitting in this parking lot. I got my fucking everything is shined to the day. I got the haircut, dude. Like, I am gonna be gray guy. Academy sucked. I got my shit pushed in the entire academy, dude. Like, class leader, made me be the flag folding fucking guy for the American flag. I mean, all of the things, dude. You name it, I was like getting it put on me. I felt like I was back at SUT again. So it was awful. So I'm like, okay, fresh start. Not going to be that guy anymore. Like, it's behind me. And I show up, and the guy's like, are you Eric? And I hadn't heard my first name in forever. And I was like, yes, I am Eric. Thank you. And he was like, we got a call. Go get in the car. And this is like, I don't start shift till 6 a.m. It is 5:30, brother. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we've got a call. So I go out. It's a sea of cop cars. So I just stand there like, I got all this gear in my fucking hand, like shotguns and shit. And the guy's like, what are you doing? And I was like, which car do you want us to go in, sir? And he was like, the car parked right here out front. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that might have been common sense, but not really.
Not for me. First day.
Okay, yeah, like, I have no fucking idea, dude. I don't even know your name yet. So I pop the trunk. I start putting my shit in the trunk, and then I just stand there at the back of the trunk. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, okay. So I go to get in the cop car, and he's like, you're driving? And I was like, I'm driving? I'd never driven a real cop car. Like, even in the academy, they're not real cop cars. They're like pieces of shit, junker Crown Vics. But like, this has got the computer shit, and all this stuff, dude.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to turn on the sirens.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I get in this thing, and I'm like, it's like it might be the cockpit of a C-130, bro. I'm like, all these buttons and switches, man. Like, it's not a regular car.
See, I would assume just, from somebody who has no understanding, no background in it, I just assume like the academy would teach you all those computers, all that stuff, and that could be further from the truth.
No, I mean, you do like really great shooting in the academy, lots of shooting, like way more than the military does.
Oh shit.
I mean, we shot a lot and all sorts of really great. I mean, I was so impressed by all the shooting stuff that we did. I mean, like 3-gun, it was really good training. And you do get good driving training. Like, it's just you don't have all the computers and stuff in the car, and of course you're learning the law mostly. I mean, it's mostly learning the law and learning how to deal with autistic people and schizophrenic people and all the drug recognition and all that. It's a lot. It's a fire hose of information in a short period of time. But yeah, so we get in this car, and he was like, all right, man, like, let's just go. And I was like, where are we going? He's like, belts out some address. And I was like, hey man, I'm not even from Raleigh. Like I just moved here and started the academy. So I've only been here for like a year, but I've never been on this side of town. And he's like, well, I'll show you how to get there. And so now it's like 5:35 and we pull up and this black kid comes up to the car and he's like, my mom's off her meds and she's acting crazy. You know, he's like 14 or something. This guy's backpack on and shit, like ready for school. And I was like, okay. And so I look over at the training officer and he was like, I was like, oh, okay. And he was like, go ahead. And I was like, go ahead and what? And he was like, take care of it. And I was like, take care of it? It's like 5:40 in the morning now. Like my shift hasn't technically even started. So I get out of the car and there's this 400-pound black lady, dude, standing at the top of this set of stairs on a porch. And she's got a turban wrapped around her head like a Jamaican lady. You know, like an Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
So I walk up and I'm like, you know, I steeple my fingers and I'm like, hi, ma'am, I'm Officer Tansey with the Raleigh Police Department. What's going on this morning? And she takes her teeth out of her mouth, sets them on the railing, and gets into a perfect fighting stance. I mean, feet shoulder width apart, squat down on her knees, kind of weight up on her heel, on her toes. And she's like 400 pounds, rocking back and forth. And I'm like, I've got some fight training. So I'm like, yo, this bitch fights? Like, what's up? Like, she's got great, her elbows were tucked in. I mean, it was like, I'm just like taking it all in. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And so I was like, I'm definitely not going to fight her though. And I was like, hey, like, tell me what's going on. What's the matter? And she tears down the stairs in my direction, running full speed. And I'm like, oh shit. And she's like, again, bro, I'm not exaggerating. She's like 400 pounds, massive lady. So I move out of the way like a matador and she's like a bull, right? And she whips past me. She runs out in the yard, takes this turban off of her head, which is an American flag, fluffs it out on the ground, gets down, and she's wearing a sundress. She gets down and she starts to grind on this flag. And she's like, you like that, big boy? You like that? She's got no teeth. She's like, you like that, big boy? And I'm like, not really. And I'm looking over at my training officer and he's like this. He's like unamused. He's just like, whatever, dude. So we go through this ordeal and then she's like, are you going to arrest me? And I was like, no, I'm not going to arrest you. Why don't you just stand up and talk to me? She reaches back, undoes the dress from the bottom, gets on one arm, right? Great athleticism here, and starts to peel this sundress up over her head, freeing these massive 400-pound titties out. Like now she's butt naked. A school bus pulls up to pick up the 14-year-old. So now there's like this school bus of kids that are like, you know, she's butt naked on the yard. I'm like losing it. I'm like, the fuck is going on? So she was like, you gonna arrest me now? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And I look over at my training officer. He hasn't moved. He's just like leaning up against the car, watching with his hands up on his face, like doesn't care. And so she's like, what are you gonna arrest me for? And I was like, oh, lewd and lascivious acts. I was just making it up. I didn't even know if that's a real charge. I seen it on TV. So I was like, lewd and lascivious? I don't even know what the real law is on this. She jumps up to like a half burpee. Now she's on her feet again. And I'm like, how the fuck did she just do a burpee? Like, this is a big ass woman, dude. And she turns around and she's grunting. She's, oh
no.
And I'm like, what are you grunting at? But my mind can't keep up with what my eyes seeing. So I'm seeing this chocolate starfish open and she grunts and then it closes when she stops grunting. And then she starts to grunt again and a little turtle head starts to poke out. And then she stops and the turtle head goes back into the beehole. And she's like, ugh, and the poop's getting, and then finally my brain's like, she's trying to shit on you. So I just say it out loud. I'm like, she's trying to shit on me. And the training officer, he's like, put her in handcuffs. I was like, she's trying to poop on me. We're now running in circles, dude. It's 5:48 at this point. We're running in circles. She's chasing me with her butthole, grunting like, ugh. And I don't know what then she takes off running again. I'm like, how the fuck is she this fast? Like, what is she on? Like, is it like peptides? What is it? Like, I don't know. She runs back up the stairs and disappears into the house. So I turn around at the stairs and I look back because I'm like, I'm not going in this house by myself. We're in the military. You don't do that.
Yeah.
And he goes, go get her. He's so mad and so disappointed in me. And I'm like, she's inside now. He's like, go get her. So I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, all right. So I start going up the stairs by myself. She comes out of the darkness of the house. The sun hasn't even come up yet. She comes out with a paint. She's like, my president's black, motherfucker. And she slams it down over my head. Now I'm wearing a picture frame of something around my neck. And I'm like, what? Like a cartoon character. And this SWAT guy just bowls past me. I don't even know where he came from, but this big old giant guy comes bowling past her, grabs her by the neck, slams her up over the railing, pulls out his pepper spray. He's like, you want to get sprayed, bitch? And she's like, nah, I'm good. And he's like, well, turn around, put your fucking hands behind your back. She's like, all right, chill. She turns around, she puts her hand behind, he cuffs her up. And he looks at me, he's like, was it that hard, Rook? And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know you could hit a bitch like that. Like, I didn't, you know, and so, you know, we get her down the stairs. I put her in the cop car, and the training officer's like, "You just gonna take her to jail naked?" I was like, I don't know, dude. Like, what do you want me to do? He's like, how about you go get her dressed and put it back on her? And I was like, okay, sure. So I go back, and she's 400 pounds. Trying to get her in the back of a Crown Vic is like extremely difficult because her legs won't even fit in the back because of the cage. So I try to go back there. Now I open the door, she's kicking, you know, doing the whole thing. And finally I'm just playing like horseshoes with the dress. I'm trying to like throw it up over her head to just like try to land it on her, like reeling it back and like trying to cast the net on her. I finally get it on her. We get her down to the jail, and he's like, now go type out an affidavit. I've never been to jail in my life. In the academy, they don't take you to jail. So I'm like fascinated by jail. I'm like, holy shit, this is jail. This is whoa, it's crazy. And he's just like, go type out an affidavit. And I'm like, yeah. All right. So I walk over, and there's like this row of laptop or computers and one state trooper at the end. And so I just walk over there, and I turn on the screen. It says like login and password, which I don't have. I'm just kind of staring, but I don't want to be that guy. And I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'm staring at the state trooper. And so he finally like looks over at me, and I'm like, what's up? And he's like, what's up? And he's typing, and I'm still staring at him. He looks at me. He's like, you need something? And I was like, dude, listen, this is my first day. I've been at work for like 25 fucking minutes, dude. And it's the worst day of my whole life. Like, I'm probably going to quit at the end of the day, but like, I got to type out some kind of an affidavit. I don't even know what the fucking affidavit is. And I can't even log in on the goddamn computer. Like, can you just get me on this fucking thing? And he's like, no, I got you. So he pulls it all up for me. And he was like, there, all you got to do is just type out what happened. And I was like, oh, that's it? He's like, right here in this narrative box, just type out what happened. And you're going to give that to the magistrate. And I was like, bingo, bongo, bango, gotcha. So, you know, I'm typing like a fucking Neanderthal. She tried to poop on me. You know what I mean? And so the training officer, he like walks behind me, and he's staring over my shoulder. I'm like, God, I'm about to get roasted for my fucking inabilities to type. And I hear like a clapping. And I'm like, what is that? And I look up, and homegirl is on the bench in front of my computer, butt naked, standing up and shitting from like 3 feet up in the air, and the poop is just splattering onto the marble floor.
Oh,
and I sling back, and I'm like, holy shit. And my training officer's like, you're so lucky she's not throwing that at you right now. And that's when I knew, like, my training officer would have let her throw shit in my face. So then I type like this from now on. Like, you know,
no one's shitting on me.
Like, nobody's shitting on me, but like, you know, and then that was my first fucking call in my first 5 minutes in my dating. I went to jail 2 more times the rest of the day, and both guys were naked at the end of that. And it was just like this crazy start to training, and then it never got better, dude. He goes on leave because he has a baby, and I get stuck with a special unit squad, and these guys don't like me. And I mean, dude, it gets to the point where I'm like almost gonna get fired because I fuck everything up, dude. Like, I fuck everything up. Like, I've tried so hard to be a good helper that I was just fucking up. Like, I'll give you one more just to paint the picture for you, but like, they all went to breakfast on Sunday morning, and I was like, okay, so like, everybody hates me, I'm in the way, these guys don't want me on this special project because I'm a fuck up, and they're going to breakfast. So I know they want to serve this warrant on this very dangerous guy. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look this guy up, and I'm going to find everywhere he's not. So when they're done with breakfast, I can be like, hey, I know we're going after this guy today. He's not here, 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 or here. Like, I looked on his Facebook, I checked his Snapchat. Like, I'm going to impress these guys with like just grunt work, right? And so I know it's Sunday morning, and I'm like, he's got a mom's address. Probably not there. So I'm going to run by, because if he's there, he would just be, or he is there, his car will be there, and then I'll call these guys and I'll be like, I got him. But I go there, and the car's not there. But I know that if I got to talk to mom, maybe mom will give me some information on where he's at. So I'm not telling anybody where I'm doing. And again, it's like 7 a.m. And so I get out of my cop car, and I knock on the door, you know, and this like 25-year-old chick opens the door, and she's like, hello. And I'm like, is so-and-so there? And she's like, what you need from him? Well, he got warrants or something? And I was like, oh, it's like some driving shit. It's like, it was not. It was like stolen firearms, assault with a firearm. Like, I mean, this is a bad felon. This is like a bad dude, like going away. Yeah, he's got like indictments and shit for like drive-by shootings. And I'm like, oh, and she was like, oh, I told him to pay those tickets. I was like, yeah, it's a failure to appear for like some kind of like bullshit registration violation. She was like, man, I told him he needed to fix his shit. Da, da, da. And I was like, well, are you his mother? Knowing she's not the mother because she's like 25 years old. She's like, yeah, I'm his mom. And I'm like, oh shit, why is she lying? Like, I know she ain't the mom. I was like, oh, you're his mom? And she's like, yeah, I try to raise him right. He does his own damn thing. And I was like, yes, ma'am. I was like, well, he's not here, is he? And she looks back behind her. She looks back at me and she's like, no. And I'm like, that's indicator number 2 that he's here, you know? I'm like, you know? So I'm like, oh shit. And I was like, well, I'll just ask her if I can look. She's going to say no. And then I'm going to call them at breakfast and be like, I got him. And I'm watching the house. Like, get over here. We got him. You know? I'm about to be a hero, bro. I'm about to get in the good graces of these guys. And I'm like, well, could I come in real quick and look and just make sure he's not here? She's like, sure, come on in. And I was like, oh shit. So I walk in and it's like a long hallway. All the doors are closed. And so I go to the first door, I open it up, and it's like, there's nothing in there. And I shut the door. I'm scared. I'm like, I don't want to be in this fucking house. Like, now I can't pull my gun out or anything.
Yeah.
Because I told her it's a driver's registration. So I'm walking around this house by myself, looking for a violent felon, holstered, with nobody that knows I'm there. No backup anywhere coming because they're at breakfast anyway. By the time they pay their bill and shit, probably going to be like 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. And so I just want to get the fuck out. So I'm not really searching. I'm just like opening doors. I'm like, not in there, not in there. You know? And I open the second door and there he is, dude, like balls deep trying to get the window open. And he's looking back and I'm like, stop, police. And he's like, "Argh!" And so I tackle him, you know, and he dives up underneath this. It was you know, one of those 2-story beds, you know, bunk bed, you know. So he crawls up under the bunk bed and I jump over it, right? Like I go through the bunk bed and he goes, so now we're playing like cat and mouse, like I'm trying to get a toddler to bed, you know. And he's going, so I grab him by the ankles and I yank him back. Homegirl comes back behind me and smacks me in the back of the head with a coffee mug. And I turn around, I blast her in the face with my fist or something. You know, and then he's like crawling back up there. I just let go of a whole can of pepper spray up underneath the bed. Now, real mama, she's come out of the bedroom. She's like, what's going on in my house? Get the fuck out of my house. Now she's throwing fucking coffee mugs, dude. I'm pepper spraying mom, who's like 60 years old. You know, the other bitch is running around like, oh my fucking nose. Oh, he punched me, you know. And this dude, I've got him by the dreads and he's swinging on me. I'm swinging on him. I jump on the radio. I'm like, Raleigh, I need help. And I just like let go of the radio and I'm fighting and everything. They're like, where are you, 420 David? Where 422? Where are you, 422? And I'm like, such and such apartments. And I'm just fighting and everything. And they're like, we got you. So anyway, I end up getting all 3 of these people in handcuffs. And I mean, like everybody's covered in pepper spray. I'm covered in pepper spray. He's covered in pepper spray. I've got like half of his dreads like stuck in my watch, you know, because it got all tangled up. And you know, so I've got them all 3 and I'm getting them down the hallway. I got all 3 of them in handcuffs. Or 2 in handcuffs, and the old lady, she just had given up because I only had 2 handcuffs. And, you know, here comes the squad guys, you know, boom, kicks in the door, and they're like, where the fuck, what's going on? And I'm like, I got him. And they're like, you fucking idiot. And they're like, and I was like, I got, you know, and I named the guy, and I'm like, I got him. And they're like, you're a fucking retard, dude. And yeah, the other guy's like, what the fuck, man? And I was like, what? I got him. And then this other guy just looks at me, and he's like, Leroy Jenkins. And they all leave, and it's like, bro, you know, I got the bag up. So then, you know, I have to go to the sergeant's office and he was like, dude, you're reckless. You're a liability. Like, you got to fucking chill. And I was like, dude, you guys just don't know me. Like, you just don't know. Like, I'm not trying. Like, I'm not trying to go get a bad guy. I was trying to, like, be this, like, have all the organization so you guys could go out and be, like, real hunters. Like, you know, and so, and that's, so I, you know, I ended up writing some reports for a homicide case. And then I had my wife read the homicide case before I went to trial. And she was like, oh, so does the jury get this? Does the jury get what you wrote, your report? And I said, yeah. And she's like, but they get like the first draft. This is like a rough draft, right? And I was like, no, that's the copy that they have. She was like, Eric, you can't, right? Like, somebody edited this, right? And I was like, no, I just type in. She's like, do you not know the difference between there, and there? And I was like, oh no, who cares? She's like, this is the most embarrassing thing I've ever read in my life. And my wife is so sweet. She would never say anything mean to me at all. She's never told me to shut up or like, she is a sweet one. Like, I've never called my wife a bitch. I've never called my wife a name. Like, we are like, we're just real kind to each other. So she's like, this is embarrassing. So I know it's bad because I'm like, man, this is fucking, she's being mean right now. Like, this is serious. And she was like, you can't, you got to like learn how to write. Like, this is like first grade level writing. And I was like, yeah, but it tells the whole story. And she was like, you didn't spell like anything correctly. And like, run-on sentences and blah, blah. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to learn how to write, you know? And she's like, I'm going to help you. She's got a master's degree and everything. And I didn't go to college. So she's like, we're going to work on it, babe. We didn't have kids at the time. We have 5 now, but she's like, we're going to work on it. So I'm like, all right. So I start bringing home my reports and we start typing them together. And in the course of like 6 months, of course, they're like, man, you're getting so good at your report writing. This detective says, he's like, hey, dude, like, did you take a college course or something? Like, he's like, you've gotten exponentially better. And I was like, oh, dude, my wife's helping me write my reports. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, dude, that what? And I was like, yeah, like I write them and then she helps me out. And they're like, you can't. So then we had to get the DAs involved, you know, like, and now I'm in like, oh, I think I'm going to get fired for this, you know? And they're like, how many of these reports? I'm like, hundreds? Like, I don't
Maybe
know.
1,000?
Like, it's like 6 months worth, you know? I'm like, oh, it's going to be thrown out because you're what? You know, so it's like everything I try to do is just bad, bro. And it's just, and you know, I obviously I didn't get fired. And so then they were like, so like what, I don't know, some sergeant or something, you know, they really wanted to keep me on, you know, because bless his heart, you know, he tries so hard, you know. And so he was like, look, what we're gonna do is you're gonna write every single day. When you get home, you're going to write what you did at work for the day. Man. And then you're gonna turn it into me. You know, and we're gonna go over this and you're gonna teach you how to write. And so for the course of like 6-7 years, I would start writing and I would get home and my kids would go to bed and everything. And my wife would go to bed and I was on night shift. So I was still wide awake and I would start typing. But, you know, everything was so bad because I worked a shooting or a stabbing every week. And I was starting to depress myself, like reliving some of this, like, oh, she was pregnant and her boyfriend beat her stomach in with a baseball bat and she was shitting baby parts when I got there. You know what I mean? Like I'm writing all this stuff, but it was like so depressing. And I was like, well, I'm going to just start writing. And these were my like own personal diaries. So I was writing it like that, like, oh, you bashed her stomach in and she was shitting baby parts, you know, like blah, blah, blah. But it was only for me. It wasn't for nobody else. And I was like, you know what? This is so dark and grim. And I wrote so much. I want my kids to read this. I'm starting to have kids. And I was like, it'd be cool to have. So I started writing it more funny and less disturbing and psychotic. And I started making it like more palpable to human consumption. And so I just started writing like the funnier stories. And then I had all these like super hilarious, funny stories that I found myself in. And I like after I got done being a cop, my wife encouraged me to email them to an actual writer, Nick Palmisano. And he called me back in like 10 days and he was like, dude, people send me hundreds of books a year and I maybe get through like 5 paragraphs. And he was like, I'm on chapter 5 of your book right now. And I was like, oh, great. And he was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever read in my whole life. Like, what are you doing with this? And I was like, nothing. I just emailed it to you. And he was like, we're going to get this thing published. Like, this is awesome. And so, then Simon Schuster offered this huge, like once in a lifetime book deal. They fell in love with it. They were like, this is so crazy. And so they gave me like a massive book deal, like never saw it coming. And dude, now I've got the #1 release for fall of 2025 for Simon Schuster. Wow. And it's a cop comedy. It's like, dude, what in the world, man? And so like we're talking to, there's a whole bunch of people right now that are involved in the book to do other things with the book that are sending out contracts. And like my whole life is just changed completely over this
Cinderella at the ball.
Ridiculous. And actually I emailed these guys that we're in contracts with now that we're signing a contract with something else. And they were like, we're so excited to be a part of this journey, blah, blah, blah. And it's all these, like, these are big names, dude. Like you would know them if I was allowed to say them. And then like, I write back and I'm like, you guys read the book, so you know how retarded I really am. I don't want to hear any complaints about how big of an idiot I am. And then they didn't respond. I called my agent back and I was like, was that good? He's like, not the best response, but not the worst. So
how does it feel coming through this journey of your life and have somebody just like the first person believe in you and your story so much? Like, how did that feel hearing that?
You know, it's so nice, man, because I've been a C- student my whole life, dude. My 7th grade teacher said it would never amount to anything but a trash truck driver. Which I was like, I heard they make a lot of money. You know, I've always been the clown and not like necessarily the clown, because I'm not really like a class clown, but like when I speak, people laugh. You know, for example, going to SEER school, like we were getting on the helicopter to do the final training exercise and I didn't know anybody that I was with. And they were like, everybody ready to go? And everybody was like, yeah. And I was like, let's suck this dick. And everybody was like, what? And I was like, You know,
No,
we get on the
no.
helicopter. This captain's like, "Did you say let's suck this dick?" And I was like, "I was excited. Yeah, I mean, I guess." And he was like, "That's so fucking weird. Like, why would you say that?" And I was like,
It just
"I
came
was
to me right now in the moment.
really excited about this, man." Like our faces are all painted, you know, like how excited you are, you know.
Yes.
And I was just like, "Let's suck this dick." You know, they're like, "Dude, you're like fucking a weird guy," you know. And it's like at that point, like I hadn't said anything. I had been like just a regular gray guy, like just this
Yeah.
rando guy. And now all of a sudden they're, you know, so yeah, I've always just had that weird kind of personality. So yeah, for the first time and that somebody was like, and then just to see the NetGalley reviews of these ARC readers who are advanced readers for Simon Schuster that are, you know, probably predominantly liberals, and have no idea what military or police life is really like, to have them putting these reviews like how the book's changing their life and how they'll never view cops the same. And, you know, how they laughed and cried and were angry in the same paragraph. And, you know, this one person's got like 700 book reviews and said it was like one of the best books they've ever read, you know, and it's like, it's just such a powerful book because it's so truthful and honest. And it's like, and it was cool because I had written the book in stages and I never went back to them. Right. So like, and it's all in chronological order. And you can see that at the beginning of the book, those stories are pretty terribly written. But by the end, I'm like a really good writer. And I didn't even realize that. But these ARC readers, like, it's kind of cool to follow his journey because you can even tell his immaturity in his writing style at the beginning of the book versus how mature it is towards the end of the book, because it's years of writing, right? It's years of stories compiled into one big story. And I was like, wow, I didn't even kind of see that.
That leads into the development of the story itself.
Yeah, because I become a training officer, I become a senior, I become officer of the year. You know, I come from this like worst fucking cop to being, you know, officer of the year, and I get like the second highest award you can get in Raleigh PD.
Wow.
And like I get, you know, I end up having, you know, a pretty great career, and I get fired the same year I'm officer of the year. And I get a life-saving award the day that I get fired. And I'm the first cop to be fired in 20 years because I opened a distillery. And they told me I couldn't. And they said, "Can you resign?" I said, "I think it would be funnier to get fired because I've never been fired before." And so I just was like, let's just ride it out. And so I opened up a legal distillery. And then they were like, "Are you sure you're not going to resign?" I was like, "Positive." And so they fired me. But it was fine, you know. And so, you know, the book, when I go back to these stories in chronological order, because I hadn't seen these stories in like 5 or 6 years, and I'm going back to these stories. And it was just like, man, it's so crazy how much a cop goes through and how many traumatic incidents you have like in a week. So when we were putting the book together as a book, dude, this could be like 3 or 4 books. It could have been like 900 pages if we put all of the shit in there. And we had to narrow it down to 300 and something pages. So, and it was just kind of like, and every one of these stories has a police report to back it up. And so they're not exaggerated or anything. It's like you can go and read the report. Like, this guy really got his nuts ripped off, or like this guy really had his, you know, arm ripped off when he hit this telephone, or this, you know, these 3 girls died on a school bus when this guy running from the law hit them. You know, all these stories really fucking happened, and there's police reports to back it up. And having some of the senior officers, Raleigh K9, for instance, he read the book and he called me at like chapter 15, and he said, "Dude, I've been a cop for 25 years, a dog handler." He was in the dog handler in the Marine Corps first, and then was a Marine Corps, or was a dog handler all through RPD. And he was like, "Dude, I'm at chapter 15. He's like, "I just finished bawling my eyes out for 5 minutes. Like, my wife came into our room, sat at the edge of the bed, and I just held my wife for the first time in my whole 25-year career being a law enforcement officer. And I just sobbed." He was like, "I don't know what happened, but I was laughing hysterically at your book, crying at how sad the story is. And then I was crying that I was laughing, and then crying that I'm crying at laughing." And he's like, "I don't know, I just got lost in my feelings." He's like, "It was like 25 years of therapy, and I just wept." And I was like, "Whoa, are you serious?" And he's like, "Dude." And it's just, you know, and it's just a very dark comedy. So I'm really excited about the book. And I think everybody's just going to appreciate it because nobody's really written a book making fun of themselves, I guess, really. You know, and I think that's pretty much what the book does. It's just, I just kind of highlight on my inner dialogue, my self-doubt all the time. Like, should I fucking shoot this guy or should I not shoot this guy? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, am I tasing this guy?
Real, true, authentic vulnerability. It's missing. It's missing from our veteran space. It's missing from law enforcement space because, you know, as men, we're told we can't be vulnerable, that we can't share our weaknesses and the things that we're not sure about. But when we read those stories, you know, just like you shared, this gentleman probably identified a lot of his own journey within yours. And that's probably the first time he's felt that. And of course, it's going to be an emotional roller coaster for anybody, man. So kudos to you for doing that, man. You may not see it right now, but when it's released, when it's out there, you're going to help a lot of people finally identify a part of themselves that they've been told to keep hidden for a long time. There's a power in vulnerability, and you putting that into a book for other people to read. That's fucking awesome, man. Kudos to you.
Yeah. And then, you know, it was, like I said, it was like more of an organic thing. It was like never planned. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to write this book and it's going to be like all this stuff. Like it was literally just like a diary, really.
Yeah.
And I wanted my kids to read it. And I think when I wrote this, and I told all the senior editors that were working on the book at the time, you know, I was like, when I wrote this, I wanted to kind of like tell my kids that your dad was a huge fuck up, like his whole life. And you're probably going to be fuck ups too. You know what I mean? And if you've seen my kids' Instagrams, they're like, they're sponsored skaters, big long hair. I mean, they're skate pro advanced, like, what's his name? Ryan Sheckler. I don't know if you remember Ryan. Like, he took my kids to Woodward for a week and like paid for it. You know, like Tim Pool has had them out to his house like twice to skate with Richie Jackson and Cody McIntyre. Like, bro, they're phenomenal. Like, go follow him, Duke Tansey or Tansey Fam. Like, he has his own podcast and shit like that he did. Like, he's been with Tony Hawk and Bucky Lasek, like, met all these guys.
Wow.
And, you know, they're like 7, 12, and 10. I have 5 total, but my daughters are too young to skate. But Sheepdog Holster just sent my kids like skateboards, you know, and they run rodeo bulls, dude, like real life. Like, they're nuts, bro. And they're like, my oldest son, he's 12. His Duke Tansey, his Instagram page is unhinged, bro. He's got like a million views on some of his posts and shit. Like, they're crazy. But at the time, I was like, they're probably a lot like me. When, you know, before they became a lot better than me. And I was like, so I should probably write a book to let them know that, like, hey guys, it's okay to kind of be, you know, how I was, where it's like, I've never been good at anything. Like, I've never just shown up and been the guy, right? Like, I'm third string everything, bro. Like, I could play football, but not first string. You know, I could play baseball, but, you know, I wasn't in the initial lineup. I played rugby, but I played flanker and hooker and whatever else was needed. You know, it was never like, that's Eric, he's our flanker, you know? So I've never been like good at anything. I've just been mediocre at everything I've ever done in my whole life, but I've tried my best at whatever it is I'm doing. And I think I put myself in situations that are extraordinary situations, but I wasn't an extraordinary person to rise up to the game. And I just kind of want to, like, you know, I just kind of say, you know, the reason why I guess I am the way I am is because I put myself into very difficult situations. And, you know, my parents had a hard time of, you know, thinking I'm an absolute failure. My dad's always, but, you know, like, after he read my book, he cried. He was like crying his eyes out. But, you know, he says, you know, I never realized until I read your book that the reason why you are just all over the place all the time is because you put yourself in the hardest situations and you're not even the guy to be there. Like, I'm definitely not the guy that should have been at selection, right? But I made it.
Yeah.
You know, and I shouldn't have been the guy at the Q course, and I didn't make it. But, like, I learned way more from just trying than if I would have just been like, yeah, I'm a skinny surfer idiot, I shouldn't even try. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely, man. I think we need more of that, dude. I think there's a lot of people that aren't willing to try. A lot of self-doubt gets in, but from your journey, from what you shared today, like, that's the overarching lesson that I want people to take away is just fucking go out there and try it, send it, do big things. Yeah. Maybe historically, maybe by the definition, maybe by the big pages in the books, you're not the guy to go do it. But who knows? Because the stereotypical guy that can do it doesn't always get selected, doesn't always make it.
Yeah.
It's a motherfucker that's willing to show up and try. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got my sommelier diploma. I got my certified specialist of wine diploma. It had like a 70% fail rate for CSW at the time. And, you know, it's like, you know, and I studied harder than anybody on the CSW, I thought, in my brain. And I scored a 77, and a 75 is passing.
Wow.
So I passed by like 2 points, right? But that's the story of my life. But I forever get to say I'm a certified specialist of wine. And it's like, did I do anything with it? No. But, like, I don't know. Like, now that I'm in my 40s and I have 5 kids that are just crushing it through life, and they're homeschooled, and, like, I mean, bro, they're like survivalists. They sleep outside by themselves. Like, they're like, my son was eating a squirrel the other day behind my shed, like, on his camper, but he caught like an illegal snare. I'm like, what are you? Bro, go to their Instagram. It's unhinged, bro. You'll be like, what? It's like, why is there not a movie about these guys? Like, these guys are gnarly. But, you know, like, now that I'm 41, it's like, dude, you get to live here once.
Yeah.
That's it. You're here one freaking time, dude, on this planet. One time. If you could fathom, if you were going to go to Disney World, right? What do you want to do? It's like you're only going to go to Disney World once in your life. What are you going to do when you get to Disney World? You're going to do it all, right? You're not
Fuck
going to
yeah.
ride one ride once and be done with it. Like, you're going to try to do all of Disney in your first try. Like, why aren't we doing all of life on our first try? Like, you want to open up a distillery and make rum, and you haven't been doing it and you want to do it, then go do it. I did it. I just sold it in January. I ran a legal distillery.
No
I
shit.
opened it and made rum for 6 years. And I ran a rum bar. Never owned a business in my whole life. And, but I did it. And I could say that, like, I made Instill Distilling Company rum for 6 years. I owned I started it and sold it. And, but I've done everything. If I thought that I wanted to do it, I did it. Was Instill a successful business? By all means, no, of course I didn't. Like, that's why I had to sell it, because, like, obviously I'm not that great of a business person either. But, like, what I learned from that has carried on to my next business, which, I run a podcast. And it's like all these things, I don't really, now that I'm in my 40s, I don't really see all those things as like epic fails as like I did in their moments. Like right now, like I can sit and I have like dad lore is what my 12-year-old calls it.
Yeah. Yeah, dude,
like,
you've got a whole list of...
Dad, you've got the best stories. Will you tell us a story? And I'm like, that feels good, man. That feels
good. That right there, that's worth every fucking failure, every opportunity that didn't pan out 100%. When your kids want to hear your stories, that's fucking success, man.
And as long as I'm a great dad, like, I took all the stuff that I learned from Jocko and everything in the 2016, 17, 18, 19 timeframe, when I was going to start my own business and leave law enforcement, and you on that grind, you gotta be on that grind. You gotta get up at 4:00 in the morning, but when I started porking out kids, I started taking that mindset, and I was like, one day I was like, what if, hear me out here, hold on, wait a minute. What if we all put that energy into raising our offspring? And so, like, I had the 6-pack abs and I was doing the CrossFit 2 times a day, running my own, but my kids were like not really being raised. They were being raised by my wife because I wasn't really, I was focused on my dreams and my aspirations. And I don't know, I felt bad in the moment, and I decided to invest all in on my kids. And now my kids are like freaking pro skateboarders, and they're not even like, they're fully sponsored, and they're not even like, the 2 of them aren't even 10 years old yet. And we got packages of free shit on our porch every single day that these kids get. Skateboard decks, they get trips, they get, shirts and pants and belts and knives. And I mean, it's crazy. And that's because I invested, into my kids. And that's really, now I'm in my 40s and I can say, like, I don't care what happens with the book. I could care less. Like, I don't care if it's a New York Times bestseller. I don't care about how many podcasts I get to go on, as long as every day I get to wake up and like hang out with my kids and my wife, and my kids like have a good relationship with me, then fuck the rest of the world, dude.
It's true, man. That's the secret of life that, I used to say, oh man, unfortunately I fucked up and I didn't realize it. Don't be sad. Like, if you're like me and you put off being a dad, put off being a husband for a long time, don't be sad. Enjoy it when it finally happens. Be present and cherish it, man. Like, it's the greatest calling. It is the most important calling in life, being a husband and being a father.
Dude,
and I'm telling you, it is waking up to the love of your life, to your soulmate, to the person that is your fucking rock, and being there for them. That is the calling of a man. Like, and being a father right there.
Dude, isn't that the ultimate freedom though? Like, I mean, like, it's like once you get to that moment, like, your whole life, like, my life was always about trying to achieve the next thing, dude. It was like, I got to get the Green Beret, or I got to be SWAT. I got to be this, I got to be that. And it's like, but once you like really realize it, you're happily married and you're doing what you should as a father. And you're like, no. Yeah. This is it. This is what life's really about. This is happiness. Like, that's so cool, man. I'm glad you have that too. And I hope other guys find it, man. And just, that's what you should be chasing, right? It's like
100%.
You should be chasing that.
All it takes is just being able to put that, be vulnerable enough to cherish that. If I'm willing to share pictures of me going out to the bars when I was young and all that stuff, then I got to be able to do the same thing and talk about the real truth now that I'm older, now that I'm wiser, now that I have the real information. Because I'm trying desperately to reach you, that young man that's trying to reach that endeavor of becoming a Green Beret. Like, it's great. It's wonderful. Keep chasing that. We need you in there. We need you to get to those dreams. But what if your ultimate calling is to have kids and be a good husband?
Yeah.
Maybe all that training, all the Q course, all the selections, all that's just getting you ready to be a really good man for somebody. That's it, man.
Yeah.
Like,
And
we need dads. We need dads.
dude, we so need dads. Like, it's so important, man. And the Q course really sets you up to
Yeah.
be a good father for sure. You know, all that
Yeah.
leadership stuff, man. Like, it's no joke, man. Like, when you can tie a knot, like, yeah, I might not have passed the Q course. I'm not a Green Beret, but guess who can tie a figure eight, like with his eyes open, like seconds, you know, and strap down the Christmas tree. Like, all the other dads are out there, like, I can't get my Christmas tree tied to the roof. I'm like, chicka, 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 ah, you know, my kids are like, damn, dad, that's rad. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah. Dude, Eric, when does the book come out?
August 26th, but it's on pre-order now. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Amazon. When it comes out, it's supposed to hit Target, Costco, Hudson's in the airport. So it should be really easy to find on August 26th. But yeah, if you get on the pre-order list and you DM me at Eric Tansey Official, if you buy one book pre-order and you send me a DM, I will mail you a signed artist rendition of a bookmarker of me allegedly tasing a woman in the vagina, naked in the bathtub. True story. Allegedly. And
Allegedly.
I will send you this. I didn't mean to tase her in the vagina, by the way. It was an accident. I was staring at her vagina when I shot her with the taser. And wherever you're looking is where your taser goes.
Looking is where it's going.
How do you not like when you like she was cutting her wrist at her vagina level? So I was like, stop cutting herself. Pow. And like, she's like, did you just tase me in my pussy? And I was like, oh my God, I did. Let me call 911. She's like, you are 911, you fucking idiot. And I was like, oh my God. And then like the ambulance get there, they're like, did you tase her in the pussy? And I was like, oh God, yes, I did. Like,
Bam, right in the pussy.
How do we fix this? Like, let's just get over the fact that I tased her in the pussy and get it out. But anyway,
you saved her.
Everybody loves that story. So I will send you this bookmarker. And if you buy one for a first responder, then I will send you the other three characters, the main characters of the book. And you will get a signed all four bookmarkers. That's all my cheap ass has to give you for pre-ordering a book, but they are pretty cool. So.
I love that. Go to the episode description. You'll see the links there. Go do yourself a favor. Get the book. I'm going to get it. There's nothing better than supporting our law enforcement, veterans, and our authors because, like I said earlier, these stories need to be shared. This is the real stuff that we got to celebrate. We can talk about fictional sci-fi books all day long. They're great. I enjoy sci-fi. I like Warhammer 40K lore just as much as any other guy. But these stories that put a human face into a profession that rarely gets enough celebration and love, man, we got to rally behind it. Eric, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Bro, I cannot wait for this book, and I can't wait to celebrate you and every other, because I feel like the universe is going to continue to make this even a bigger thing. So I can only imagine what's to come with this book. Hopefully a Netflix series, maybe a movie, a board game, a video game. That'd be fucking badass. But thank you for being here today. To all of you at home listening, thank you. And do me a favor, go ahead on over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Put some words in there. I don't know. Put Eric's awesome or taste the vagina. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. I just appreciate you doing it because it helps me with the algorithm. I'm Deny Caballero. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care.